You are presently influencing the multi-metaverse, especially your corner of it. You are flowing in the canvas, and the canvas is flowing in you. Influence. The tones you draw from the harmonic library that is in you and surrounds you, and that constitutes the raw omniverse. The singular tones you weave together become the song of you living. Being is undivided. The harmonic library is also undivided. It is the motion of an infinite spectrum of states that are each different from the other. But as a library entire, it is an undivided potential until an observer-creator selects a state or a complex of states as an experience for the right here, right now. In other words, metaphorically, the being may draw on the canvas. When a human artist has a blank, undivided canvas, they begin to apply line and additional shaping and color tones in order to divide the canvas. Similarly, a being divides, i.e., places line or boundary within the canvas. The base outline applied is observation itself, the attention directed, the direction of attention. As a metaphor, or not even a metaphor, but an actual example of how this functions, you cannot divide the sky, but you can appear to divide the sky because your observation can only capture a portion of the sky. These continue to be co-realities, the sky undivided and the limited portion of the sky that belongs to you and your attention in the here and the now. The observation of the observer is the boundary. What is within the boundary of one's observation is what has appeared, and become a limited and lived book of experience for that one. And this is why we say observer-creator, because the observation is the creation, is the conjuring. It is a yin-yang because the fact that there is anything to observe is so because there is that which observes it. If the observer annihilates or the attention of the observer moves, then what is observed is no longer boundaried and thus vanishes from experience and returns to undivided potential. The line drawn is not out there in a potential field because the field is not out there. The harmonics are within you. The field is you. Thus as well is the line drawn within. The appearing and the vanishing are not out there, they are within. The field is not modified, the observer sets boundary that modifies their self and their experience. Another way of referring to limiting within boundary that I have already introduced in previous lessons is the cept, a vessel, a cup, that which has the capacity to hold. The foundational cept of the magician, of the human, is their eye, outer and inner, their observation. And sight in this case also encompasses the registration of all the avatar's faculties and senses, the whole body and the whole human energy complex as an eye, with both receiving and projecting capacities. The magician decepts. From the undivided, they gather a division into their cup. Decept, deceive. Now, pure observation does yield experience, but it is a broad, meaningless, neutral experience, or that has a primitive meaning of wonder and joy at witnessing patterns at play, like watching bubbles or clouds or kaleidoscope configurations. Another line, boundary, cept, may be applied in order to limit the field further into more specific difference of experience, more specific lived book. This is the cept of naming. The magician names. The human names. Naming is deep magic. Giving a name gives the existence. Changing a name changes the existence. Now, you may be thinking of names as English syllables of sound, but please note that all of our syllables are gobbledygook, which you know if you hear another human earth language being spoken. The actual names are deeper within. We wonder when we are going to be telepathic humans, but all language is telepathic because it is not in the sound. We share inner meanings with one another, or not so much as the case may be, with the assistance of sound symbols. When you learned language as a child, the sound did not teach you. Your teachers showed you by pointing to things and by their emotional expressions until the names inside of them were passed to you telepathically. You were energetically brought into agreement with all the names your culture already had determined. You were enchanted, bound by a multiplicity of names. And P.S. This does not mean that sound is powerless to cause change and existence, quite the contrary. But that is another subject than the one we are on, of the name or naming. I want to tell you a little personal story here. I once went to a hypnotist because I wanted to recover something I had written, some book pages I had typed on the word processor, but the computer had lost the file. So I couldn't get the pages from the computer. So I asked the hypnotist to help me recover it from my brain or memory, or however it works, which I learned a little something, more question than answer, about how it works, because when the hypnotist brought me to the scene so that I could read the pages, I told him, I can see the letters, their shapes, but I don't know what they mean. So for me, that indicated that my meaning was stored or accessed from a different place than the written language shapes, and that actual language and meaning and names are something other than the symbols we've invented that we call human spoken and written language. It was just a very interesting experience for me that I thought applied here. I was also able to recover the meaning, but it came over the next few days. It rose to the surface, and I was able to write again. All right. Naming, the name. This is one of the most magical phrases of power. That is. This phrase is the boundary line that divides potential into what is for you. That is an apple. That is rain. That is anger. That is my friend. That is. Whenever you take this phrase into your heart, your mouth, your intention, you are calling, and your wield will land. Take care with this phrase, and also use this naming phrase liberally, but with greater design. You invest the energetic environment around you with meaning. You give the names. I say invest, but the meaning never arrives at what appears. The meaning is the boundary and division and septing within and of you, the division and outlines of you. The meaning is held within you. You give name to your own observations. By the act of naming, you fashion your own deceptions and illusions. There are transmitted and shared meanings, but they are effective because of each participant's inner agreement or consent, even if it is an innocent or ignorant consent. Now let's be clear. For each of the canvas tools or septs we are learning, generally speaking, they divide and dissolve on their own basis. Unnaming or renaming dissolves the names. Giving name provides a division or appearance on the basis of name. Withdrawing or redirecting observation changes divisions and appearances based on observation. Any other tool or sept we learn also can be set to condition on its own basis, like to like. Let's say there is a pencil on your desk. You rename it. That doesn't disappear the pencil because the pencil is there on the basis of other septs, including elemental septs and your observation. But renaming may change the experience you have of what is within your observation. I am put in mind of the Little Mermaid story where she had a huge collection of thingamabobs, and the movie watchers understood the agreed-upon name of the fork, but the Little Mermaid gave it a different name and put it through her hair. Now, we would never put a dinner fork in our hair, but that's mostly because of its name. There is no elemental or observational reason not to. You may say, her renaming the object didn't actually change it, but that's what I'm telling you. What is actually? Sometimes the only barrier between you and an experience you desire to have in the here and the now is the name you currently hold for it, and a new name you have yet to apply. Not always, but it's certainly one condition to investigate and potentially induce change in. No one tool is going to solve all your problems and call the appearances of all your dreams. But let's keep adding to the quiver of ingredient options for formula recipes. Naming is one powerful condition, but not the only one in your magical quiver. All along in the Keys of Magic series, we are learning these various conditions that may be set. Now, there is a possibility for cross-influence and multidisciplinary influence. There are very powerful names that wield beyond nameness, and you can potentially develop your own. But for now, in your novice practice, first learn to understand the like-to-like property spectrums. Most importantly, never forget these are all canvas or division or illusion tools, programming codes. No tool dissolves being. Being is all there is. The rest are illusion edits. Can you walk about the world without any names? Yes, maybe not 100% because you want to be functional in daily life. But let's say release 70 to 80% of names. That's not a real statistic, just to evoke what I'm trying to say. If you unname the world, then the place you land in is neutral observation and wonder. If I invite you to approach the world with wonder, then what I also mean is an unnamed world. Babies explore their world without names. You can still do similarly. Be in wonder. Just enjoy the sights in the light. In fact, you should be suspect of all the names you have for the life you are living, because they are not names you gave, but names that were given to you. Thus, these names were applied to the division of your experience without agency and consent on your part. Or again, that innocent or ignorant consent. And you can become more aware and empowered. To summarize the lesson herein, setting septs yields experience. Removing septs dissolves experience. Resetting septs reforms the experience. When in the past I have stated that inducing change comes by setting conditions, you now know that the conditions must be septs. They must be dividers, holders, cups. Cups both divide and hold, and then what is in the cup may be drunk by the one whose cup it is. In this lesson, we have referred to two fundamental septs, that of observation and that of naming or investing meaning. You live the attention you give. You live the names you give. Let me give the keys. Before that, to let you know that the presentation in this video is a conclusion to a learning module that began in Keys of Magic video 114, where I gave the base key that understanding magic is necessary to understanding how to act in Earth life. Video 114 also included an integration of many previous principles throughout the series, kind of a thus far snapshot. Then in videos 115 and 117, skipping video 116, which is on a different theme, I took the listener through some direct exercises. Then in the video just previous to this one, Keys of Magic 118, I provided principles that then lead us to the present presentation, where I intend to conclude for now, although of course I always come back around to themes throughout the series in order to advance our novice understanding and practice. Also keep in mind that this lesson advances us in the magical formula in terms of speaking, differentiating, and setting vessel. Differentiating observation and differentiating name may be the main magic or condition in a given formula, or it may be a lesser assisted piece. This will depend on so many things, including one's art, and on, of course, the intended call result and what its recipe is. Also to note that I have given the key of cept and the key of harmonic library and the key of like to like in a previous lesson. So, there is a key that may be said thus: we see as we are. One portion of this is that we observe according to preset corporate faculties. You are already inhabiting and participating within a human avatar, so that is already a specific set of limits and boundaries that yield a certain way of holding, observing, and therefore creating the universe. Human faculties shape the field, shape the self, the field as the self. There is great creative and joy power in human immersion. So being human is not ultimately a problem, but rather one of the greatest opportunities there is in the omniverse. One invitation you already have from me is to purify. The purification of the magician is a process of becoming more sovereign over one's own body and the power in it. When you change the inner field, what is called into one's outer field also changes. As we are, so we see. We may state the key in the inverse as well. We are as we choose to see. Another way of saying this is that my teaching is not as much to teach you magic as it is to teach you how to become the magician. The world is before us and may be influenced. Thus, the yielding of result in the world is a function of the development of the capacity of the influencer, most particularly the sight capacity of the influencer. This leads us to another key, that we are as we choose to name what we see. We name as we are. The key of naming. I am put in mind of a child playing with a cardboard box, raw materials, and the child says, "Look, Ma, it's a spaceship." The child created an experience with the boundary of an invested name. If you say, "That is what a child will do and does not apply to me as an adult," that is all we do as adults. We build boxes with trees we killed and say, "Look, Ma, this is the stock floor. Look, Ma, this is a church. Look, Ma, this is a courthouse." The boxes aren't any of those things. The stock floor, church, and courthouse are lines drawn, names given within ourselves. I also have been pondering this phenomenon where people are having fun with little AI videos. As a specific example, the hilarious Bigfoot vlogs. Now, the AI video images look like average apes. The voice is your average country boy. The images are not even the same throughout the brief plots. It's very inexact, as, again, we learn AI and just play around with it. But the authors have given the name. This is Bigfoot. This is Bigfoot vlogging with Bigfoot problems and point of view. And as soon as we receive the name Bigfoot, we understand what we are to see. And we easily immerse in that creation and get to laugh a bunch. The name gives us the experience, more than the rest of the symbols assisting. Let me now give some novice practice based on what we've been recently learning. And by the way, if you feel an affinity to it, the technique of naming may be emphasized to the point of being one's art, if so desired. The first practice I invite you to is to practice recognizing possession. If you are a long-time listener, this is not the first time I have brought up possession. Understand that in giving a name, and thus calling it into existence, is also calling into possession. Understand that what you possess possesses you. And P.S. I am not talking about one's ownership of personal property when I say possession. Please understand more deeply than that. The goal is not to be completely free of possession. Some individuals have that goal, or that is their track for this lifetime, but I do not recommend this for most persons. First of all, this is not a leap a novice can take, usually. But more importantly, Earth life is a place, and human life is an instance of immersion and possession. The dynamic of possession is neutral. The question is, what am I possessed by? Am I possessed by, and do I possess by default? Or am I aware and creating from my highest agency? I am put in mind of the trash heap and the trash carried on the back, as shown in the classic movie, The Labyrinth. I am also put in mind of Krishnamurti's word, accumulation. The accumulation of all the names of things is the accumulation of the things themselves. You, the earth you, is a collection of names. The earthy world before you is a collection of names. This can be a very heavy weight to carry with you everywhere you go. Debris. The debris of names. This leads to the next practice I invite you to. Instead of possessing and accumulating, approach the world in nameless wonder. Release all names. Obviously, the names you've been taught for things will enter your mind, that's fine, but loosen your hold. Allow that symbol to come and go without any commitment to it. Release all names. By this, release the world itself. Sigh of relief. The glorious silence without the chatter of names. Only name when necessary for daily function, or name when chosen deliberately for purposes of magical wield. Investigate your personal experience little by little, and unname and rename liberally in order to release debris and to recalibrate and call your experience. Here is an exercise. Look at or imagine a stop sign. Understand now that this appearance is not a stop sign. Rather, you have been told it is a stop sign. A name, stop sign, has been inserted into your psyche. This is not for nothing, as this useful magic allows you to be safe from collision. But be clear that the stop sign is inside you. It is not the outer appearance. Look at the geometrics we call letters. Look at the red. Look at the octagon on a pole. Realize that it is all rather odd, a pattern, but not a stop sign. Release the name. Realize the appearance has no meaning. Peel the glamour you are holding on the inside that overlays and modifies your experience of an elemental in the exact same way that a child describes a cardboard box. The only difference is that we have all been inducted into the agreement of what this flat metal shape means. But the meaning does not come from the appearance itself. The meaning comes from the internality of humans. Loosen this hold. And which does not mean that you fail to stop when you come to these signals. This is the observation of a magician, to both accept and live immersion where desired and applicable, and to realize that the appearances of the outer world are a landscape of nothing but pretty baubles, and that the immersion is within, where the names are. Here's another exercise. The next time you are in the grocery store, realize that you have organized your observation according to a set of names, such as food types, all the things on your shop list, rice, apples, tortillas, falafel. Reorganize the lines drawn around the patterns into a new observation. For example, observe everything simply as a set of colors. Stand in the produce and loosen your hold of naming it produce. Simply stand in nameless wonder and allow the broad strokes of color to suggest a work of art that someone has created. Maybe it has always been a work of art, and silly you to plan on eating a portion of the paint. I am put in mind of two books that I suggest are worth reading in order to get a sense of name magic, and they both have movies, so you can watch the movies instead if you like. Those stories are BFG by Roald Dahl and Anne of Green Gables, the first book, by Lucy Maud Montgomery. When I invite you to nameless wonder, please realize that you do not have to try to have wonder. Wonder is your natural state. Continue to release or loosen your hold on names, and the wonder will be waiting for you from underneath all the weight of names. Wonder is not made, but wonder is allowed. Another blessing will also emerge as you release the clutter of names. To be in wonder is also to hear and listen. I have often taught you to listen. Listen for the language of the beings around you. When you refrain from insisting on the barrier of the human conceptual name for a being, you may be able to hear the name it has for itself and may give you. Again, this will not be a name as done in the human style. This will be a living language and name, inseparable from being. This living name will be a set of harmonics and a pattern of element and of deeper anima. In fact, I will here now give you the first name to hear, to know, to speak. I have already given the name to you in previous lessons. I called it a word of language, but let us realize it again as a name. In the suspension of being and within the harmonic library gel, the first line drawn, the first boundary or cup, the first name that yields an immersion in the here and now is what moves and what is still. There was no difference in being, and then there was the difference between movement and stillness. Every being, every appearance has this name, this syllable, as part of their name. How you speak this name is not in human speech and concept. You speak stillness by being still. You speak movement by moving. And you hear by the same means. Observe a bird or an insect in wonder, and allow yourself to be spoken to with this name. The particular movement and stillness that emits from that being, and how, after all, it is the same movement and stillness, the same name we all share. All right. Taking us back to human language naming, I want to give you a new magic name you can use. This will be a rename. The old name you have is something like this: in the way. You might have applied this name to quite a bit. That is in the way. Let us change one small sound from in to on. On the way. Here is a magic phrase you can use to redraw the boundaries of what your experience is. No more in the way, but rather on the way. I want to make a practice note relating to food ingestion practices, which is something a purifying magician pays attention to. Whatever you ingest at the appearance level also holds a harmonic reality. As an example, ingesting a carrot is you accessing a different part of the library than in the instance of ingesting a processed sugar treat. I am not going to micromanage the outline of what to ingest. Everyone is different in any case. You can come to understand your own purification and balance in this area, but do keep this underlying magical principle in mind. Understanding magic is necessary to understanding how to act in earth life. Please realize that I have been guiding you all along in the act of observation, the freedom you have to observe within your earth life, and how the calibration of your observation is also your immersion. An observer is not locked into their observations. Observation is fluid. Attention moves. We begin with the attention of the body eye, but soon understand that attention is from within and is the living of the whole body. In this, the eye and the stance no longer become separate ways, but the same way for the magician, Add to this freedom to act in terms of observation the fluidity of naming. One is also not locked into names. What you can name, you can unname or rename. You are free to act in terms of naming and of listening to the world in wonder at the names being given to you. To summarize this lesson's practice invitations in list form. 1. Release accumulation of possession of what has been accumulated and possessed by the application of name. 2. Allow your default living to be nameless wonder. Name only for necessary daily function and for mindful magic. 3. Realize there is no stop sign, there is no produce, there is only your internal observational and naming landscape and overlay on hapless elemental forms of art. 4. Listen for the living names of the beings you encounter. 5. Allow yourself fluency in the living name or language of movement and stillness. Hear this, speak this. 6. Rename and recalibrate your experience liberally. Use the power phrase, "that is." Rename what you now say is in the way to the new name of on the way. 7. Understand food ingestion as harmonic library access and make choices accordingly. 8. Reclaim your freedom to act in terms of observation and of naming. 2 tools for drawing division within unlimited potential. All right. Observer, you. Namer, you. Creator, you. Magician, you. Shapeshifter, you. Magician is a shape you are shifting into, including by the means of claiming that name, naming yourself magician. You are. The being you are comes through the filters, the edits, the differences, the limits, the patterns, the names, the worlds, the weaving. Be, coming to be. I am that. Who can I be while wearing this mask, while wearing this name? I am that tone, I am that element, I am that appearance, I am that enchantment. I shift into shape. You are able to act. You may leave the world of confusion and lack. You may leave or enter the world of enchantment according to your purposes. You may acknowledge the world of neutrality and wonder and live and act from it. You may participate in the world of art. You may joy in the world of sacred living. You may converse, listening and speaking, with the voices and languages in the earth, including the voices of the elements. You may hear the deeper songs of anima and of being. You come being into these worlds. If you have been following along the series, your daily appearance and experiential world may have changed, may have become magical in the following specific ways. You now inhabit a world of practice, where you may choose to practice and thereby develop influence. You inhabit a world that has keys to give you and responds to keys given. You inhabit a world of the ancient play of archetypal progression, of which you are currently undertaking the revelation of the secrets of the magician. You inhabit a world that desires your offering, your art. You inhabit a world that asks something of you, your guardianship. You inhabit a world where your mother embraces you. Magic is deeper than any given method. Magic is foundational principles that become effective through specific idioms and disciplines. There are techniques, but magic is not technique. Magic is standing, seeing, sounding, breathing, living, dancing. You are the magic. This closes for now a presentation that began in video 114 and that includes videos 115, 117, 118, and this one, which is 119. However, we will for sure, ongoing in the future, talk more about naming and about other septing principles, as well as many other magic keys and themes. I'll see you in the next video. Peace and protection upon you.